Everyone knows AI is transforming work, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Most AI today is still focused on the digital world. It writes your emails, it summarizes documents, it helps you code faster. But in the physical world, AI isn't yet consistently or reliably doing the hardest jobs. It doesn't dependably prevent crashes on the highway. It doesn't consistently protect the worker operating a 40-ton vehicle at 65 miles per hour. That's the physical economy. And when you see AI fail there, you don't get a bug report. You see drivers hurt, inventory spoiled, projects delayed, tools go missing. This is exactly why product-first inventors like Mighty Capital pay attention to companies who are solving real-world systems. Their CPO Alpha framework looks for product leaders who can turn complexity into category-defining, ROI-delivering platforms, the kind that create outliers. Welcome to Product Talk Podcast by Products That Count, where we bring you insights from the world's leading product leaders. Our guest, Motive CTO Amish Babu, shares what it really takes to design AI systems that operate on the road, in the field, and in high-stakes environments where trust, precision, and speed are critical. This episode is sponsored by Mighty Capital, an early-stage venture capital firm that capitalizes in the growing influence of product management and corporate success. Products That Count is a 501c3 nonprofit helping everyone to build great products, engaging over 600,000 product managers worldwide. Learn more at productsthatcount.org. Let's get started. All right. Well, today I'm sitting down with Motive CTO Amish Babu to really unpack how you build AI when failure isn't an option. Amish, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Denise. It's great to be here.
Well, we're going to jump right in. So, as we think about the physical, as we think about actually AI today, most of what we think about is actually knowledge workers, right? It's summarizing documents, it's answering questions, right? It's even generating code for developers. As we think about what AI is doing at Motive, right? They're really building, you all are building AI for the physical economy, whether that's fleet telematics, driver safety products, compliance tools, equipment monitoring, and even fuel and workforce spend management solutions. So just maybe in simple terms for the layman, what is physical AI? And why has this half of the economy been so underserved for so long?
Yeah, it's a great question. And thanks again, Denise, for having me. Maybe I could just quickly start off on who we are, what Motive does. We build tools for people who run physical operations to make their work safer, more productive, and more profitable. To get to your question, though, on physical AI is AI designed to operate in the real world and in real time where decisions have immediate consequences. Think about a driver on a highway or forklift on a construction site. These aren't digital environments. You're dealing with motion, weather, risk, human behavior, and unpredictability. The physical economy makes up about half the global GDP, but it's been underserved because it's hard. It's hard to be in these environments working with people who are out in the field, vehicles that are out in the field. You need sensors, edge computing, massive real-world data sets to train AI, and a continuous improvement loop in messy, high-stakes environments. And unlike the knowledge economy, the world isn't naturally connected. Drivers are on the road, equipment is in the field. A lot of workflows still run on manual processes. So what's changing now is that that's moving out of the back office and into real world decision making. It can help prevent accidents, improve efficiency, support compliance, and control costs that as events and operations happening. And so that's what we're focused on at Motive. And our AI works in the moment where mistakes have real world consequences.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much variability, complexity there that you mentioned, but this is also AI that people will really pay for, right? Because it is directly offsetting whether it's insurance claims or workforce labor costs or reducing, spend on fuel consumption, really optimizing a lot of this high cost machinery at times. So there are real dollars that you can put against this AI that you all are producing.
Totally. The tangible results for our product are quite significant.
Yeah, so as we maybe step back and think about you, right? You've helped to bring products to market like Kindle and Oculus Quest and Scale Reader, and these are all iconic consumer products. And so what surprised you the most when you move from this world of consumer tech to then building this enterprise grade technology for these large, complex physical, operations?
It's a great question. And it's nice to reflect back, on my journey here. But first, like the bar for trust in this space is just so much higher. In consumer tech, if something breaks, it's frustrating, and you certainly will hear about it at that scale, at those companies, you hear about it. But in the physical world, if something breaks, someone can get hurt and even die. And unfortunately, that happens even today. And over the 6 years, like I've seen that, right? And so it has tremendous consequences. So the bar is higher. And to that end, then it completely changes how you build. The other thing that stood out is how underserved this market has been. Like a lot of customers have lived with products that go stale really fast in this space. They buy a system, they deploy it, and a year later, it's basically the same product. They're not used to products that keep getting better over time, right? So, we design with that in mind, and it's something I hear from customers over and over. At Motive, we keep on adding value as customers stay with us. We keep learning their business. We keep understanding their pain points more deeply. And then we ship new features and new AI capabilities week after week. So it's not just about great engineering. It's about combining AI, hardware, and real operational understanding to build something people can truly rely on. And that does get better day after day.
Yeah, I love that. I was listening to another podcast recently. They were kind of taking a similar perspective that you were sharing, somebody who's building in the physical world. And they were saying, when we think about the knowledge economy, right, the AI learns these new skills. Well, you can't keep swapping out the hardware, right? And so you do need to have this software layer that's like creating these new skills that the hardware is capable of, and exploiting that, day in and day out so that it can get better and better. So it is a really unique perspective, I think, building at the edge of those two things.
Yeah. And I think from my perspective, we're kind of like the Tesla of the business, right? We're like creating products that every week you're getting some new feature that's like adding more insights into your business that's helping you day after day, right? And like you think about it from the previous world where there's paper logs and hardware that just basically it's a one-time purchase. It's a hardware business. It's quite a different world and quite a different product that we're delivering.
Yeah, what an upgrade. Well, let's go deep on that piece of trust that you mentioned. In SaaS, right? If a feature fails, maybe the page takes a longer time to load, and certainly that's frustrating from an end user experience. But there's no, like, to your point, like real consequences of that. In your world, right, if the AI fails, as you said, like somebody can get hurt, right? It could, resolve in some pretty grave scenarios. And so how does that reality really like fundamentally change the way you design products, the way you prioritize features, the way you and your teams think about risk?
It changes everything. For us, we have physical devices, AI models that run on the edge, and a need for a very high level of precision and recall. So we design everything around real-time decision-making. Our AI runs directly in the vehicle in harsh environments. That means that what we build has to respond quickly, and it has to be extremely reliable over years, right? Consumer products are often designed to last for a couple of years in someone's house. Ours has to last 5+ years in very harsh environments from a hardware perspective. And then from the AI perspective, the system has to detect risk and respond instantly, not after the fact, right? If anyone who's used a chat bot, like you enter something, it thinks about it, maybe a couple minutes later you have something, right? Like we're talking about milliseconds on the road, right? So fundamentally, the way we have to design is very high precision in real time. And we're very intentional about that precision. If you overwhelm drivers with false alerts, they stop trusting the system. So you can't have hallucinations you can sometimes have with LLMs nowadays. So accuracy isn't just a metric; it's core to whether the product works like at all, right? And that shows up in how we build and validate our models, multi-stage testing, offline experiments, controlled field rollouts, multimodal signals like video, motion, GPS. We put that all together into our models, and a deep analysis of like long tail scenarios, because as we gather more and more customers, we can address that long tail, which is the hard part, right? So that's kind of our approach, right? And the goal is simple: detect risk early in real time and help prevent incidents before they happen.
Yeah, and I think that takes you to and you mentioned some of these key architectural decisions that you all have made. Your newest device, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it runs, I believe, more than 30 AI models directly on the dash cam, right? And so it's really that edge decision making that you're talking about. And so is that edge decision making, really is that really driven by the risk component? Are there other reasons why you've kind of pushed all of these workloads to the edge?
Well, like I mentioned, it's really about addressing these scenarios in real time. So that's what our customers expect, and so you have to have hardware that works together and a full vertical solution to deliver that to the customers. That means designing the hardware, the sensors, the reliability. How does it communicate? What happens when connectivity drops out? We have to take all of that into consideration. And at the end of the day, it has to be able to alert the driver on all these behaviors. So we were very intentional of building a device that could work in a bunch of different scenarios that can respond in milliseconds to unsafe behavior or distracted driving and many other models that we deploy on edge.
And maybe just a curious question, if you think about all the way down to the teams, who are maybe working on these things, I can imagine you might have teams that are both very vertically focused, right, on how do I get sort of an end-to-end workflow going. And then because of the criticality of this, you've got some horizontal teams as well that are really just kind of focused on optimizing, every kind of single bit, because, a millisecond, shaving milliseconds here, shaving milliseconds there is going to mean the difference between, life and death decision making. Is that the right way to even think about how you've structured maybe your team to best support these types of requirements?
Yeah, it's a good question, and this like hits on both our product, but also how we organize around our product. For me, like single-threaded ownership is a big deal overall, and so we tend to operate this way, right? For me, a single-threaded owner, it's one named person who wakes up every day thinking about a specific outcome. And for every material initiative we have at Motive, like there should be a clear CEO or CTO equivalent in the room. That person's accountable for scope, dates, quality, and ownership alone is not enough. You still need deep collaboration between teams, right? So given that we're full stack, hardware, software, AI, we have to make sure that we are collaborating across that, but that single-threaded owner is key to that overall. So that's exactly right? We have horizontal teams, we have vertical features, and we move at an incredibly fast pace. Obviously, as AI now is introduced into the flow and agentic development is introduced to the flow, this even becomes more critical. But at the end of the day, we focus on the metrics on, what are we delivering to the customer, what's our accuracy, what's our latency, and then we rotate people around that to deliver those models, those end results from a company perspective.
I like that. And then the single-threaded owner is the one who's like kind of laser focused on, this particular persona, this type of use case, right? How are we executing against that? Was that like something you recently put into action? Has that been a piece of kind of this scaling? Because now you all are thousands of employees, your global engineering teams. Like, how did something like that change come about?
Yeah, I mean, certainly something I brought from my previous history. Single-threaded owner was a big thing at Meta, Facebook when I was there. So as we scale both from the ground up, from the engineers, but leaders we bring in, like we've created a culture that's very motive, but pulls the best processes and best operating principles from the leaders we've brought in, right? We have some leaders that have come from GM and Cruise that bring in the automotive experience. We have people from Amazon and Apple that bring the hardware experience. We've worked on AI for the last 10 years, even before this moment in time where everyone's talking about AI. So, we have these different functional areas, first principles thinking of like, how do we operate? How do we put these together? And we've created kind of our unique view of the world, especially going back to the first thing we spoke about, delivering for the physical economy, delivering across many vehicles, many companies is not an easy task. And so you have to think about, how do you go deploy product out there? How do you test it? The corner cases it's a very long tail, so you have to figure out how to address this meaningfully. So we bring best practices in, but we also create our new ones overall.
Nice, I love that. Are there some other best practices that you think have enabled you to kind of maintain this balance of trust and velocity that I hear you talking about a lot today?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe going back to our product and our AI DC Plus, our newest product. What I'd say here is that at the end of the day, we're extremely customer focused. So a feature not working is a big deal for us. So we overall rotate our teams to drive the metrics we think are most important. So precision on our AI models. We believe we have maybe the most accurate models in the industry. And how do we do that, right? It's a loop. We have an in-house AI team, in-house hardware team that's developed a product that we think is unmatched in terms of like the full stack integration, sensors, processors, and then developing 30 plus models that we can go put on that, right? Each one of them has to operate at 90 plus precision out in the field. So how do you get that? Right? We have to actually look at the data over time across our customers. We have to train our models. When there are instances where, the long tail, it doesn't work, we have to reiterate that and push that back in, right? And we have to learn. Maybe a greatest example of maybe a strength of the team is our ability to learn pain points of the customer and deliver features that aren't matched out in the field from competitors. Like one great example is unsafe parking. We had a customer come to us and say, hey, a big problem for us is our drivers pulling on the side of the road and then getting hit at a very high velocity. And so they called it sitting duck, right? We call it unsafe parking. But what it was is like a pretty complex model of, you need to know that the truck is on the side of the road. You need to know that when a collision does happen, like pair that with the fact that you have all this telematics data. And so we delivered this feature in a very short period of time. So just going back to the idea that we're extremely customer focused, and that's how we kind of operate is maybe a main takeaway here.
Nice. And maybe just to hit home on that feature, is that feature like at the end of the day, like some sort of alert or notification that's like, hey, don't park here, or make sure to get out on the interior side of the car. Like don't be, getting out.
Yeah. All of the way that our features work is that we have in-cab alerting for pretty much all of them. It'll say exactly that. It'll detect the feature. It'll detect the incident, and then it'll notify the driver. And also the fleet manager also gets the notification. So both the driver is able to take proactive action, and then if they don't, the fleet manager can call them. Now, putting even more pieces together in our latest product, AI DC Plus, we've introduced two-way calling. So through the device itself, we can actually have the fleet manager now call the driver and say, hey, I just noticed that you're parked on the side of the road. This has happened twice now. Please move. But and the consequences of that are significant, right? Like as I mentioned earlier in the call, like when these big rigs get in an accident, it can be catastrophic either for the driver or the vehicle hitting it. And so these are like very important things that we care about deeply.
Yeah, no, that's really incredible, right? It's great to hear that story. Like, really brings to life what you're building. I think, and the impacts of what you're building really have in this physical world. And so, maybe going back to that, I mean, what you really talked about here is kind of this nothing happened metric. And the statistic I have is that you estimate that your AI dash cam has helped prevent over 170,000 accidents since January of 2023. So that's a staggering number over a 3-year time horizon. And so back to, you talked about it already, but you train and improve your AI so that's consistently happening. And how do you make sure that all of the components are coming into place, and that, I have to assume, now becomes kind of the forefront sort of North Star metric in some ways, which is unusual.
It's unusual because like, prevention is like you're trying to measure something not happening, right?
Right.
But it's a little bit like not the way that I would completely think of it. Like, of course, like we can measure that. So from an engineering perspective, we know that there are behaviors that are very well understood to increase accident risk over time. And like that's what we kind of lean on, right? The ability to detect that risk over time, and actually detect positive behaviors too, which is a different angle as well, right? Like you want to know, one, if your driver is being risky, but you also want to know if your driver is being good, right? Like are they keeping a distance from the cars in front of them? Are they not picking up the cell phone? So we actually measure that too, right? Okay. And this all comes together. Things like cell phone use, unsafe parking, close following. These are measures of risky driving behaviors. So we don't have to wait for an accident to know the system is finding meaningful risk. Like a very good proxy for this is near misses. We measure those too. So because near misses tell you the system is catching the kinds of moments that often lead to more serious outcomes later. So over many years, across millions of vehicles, we've built up a huge body of data that includes these risky behaviors, these near misses, just real world outcomes. And that's what we train on. And that's why the main reason our models are so highly accurate. And we keep on testing these, learning from this, and iterating on this. But the engineering system behind it is built on very concrete signals that we know matter.
Yeah. And then I think what's great in that, right, is you also move away from approximates, right? Insurance rates, you and I, if I were to go out and get insured, right, they're going to look at, oh, you're a female and you're in this particular type of demographic. Therefore, your probability of accident this high. Back to your point of like, you're measuring the individual driver. You could actually start to underwrite really the insurance for Denise because you know that I have good driving habits, right? That I, am doing all of these things, like to your point, like not following closely behind somebody, not using my phone. So that has to create great leverage, for the businesses using your product, in addition to obviously the safety component.
That's exactly right. At the end of the day, it's about delivering efficiency and profitability for the companies and safety, of course. But it translates to all of this, right? And we actually are able to give a stacked rank view of the drivers to the fleet on who's doing what, who's doing things well, who's risky the most, and not only that, but we're able to actually coach these behaviors, right? And so we actually give guided views of what should you coach with these people automatically. And we've even taken it a step further with AI, where you can actually create what we call the AI coach, a custom avatar of you as a fleet manager to automatically coach your driver. So say I was a fleet manager, Amish was a fleet manager, you'd get a notification on your phone every week saying, hey, Denise, like this is what you've done well this week. This is what you haven't done well. This is what you should focus on. And so it's a pretty magical experience because, you're saving time for the fleet managers while still delivering a very personal experience to the driver.
Right. Which, to your point, over time, their driving improves. Over time, that actually equates to more dollars saved for that business. So it's a win-win all around. Yeah, that's incredible. And so, you mentioned it, like you all have this large, data sets that you're working with, which allow you to get these insights. You also said your product team kind of has this superpower, right, of like kind of bringing these customer use cases. Are you all getting out there in the field with customers actually to feel your product in action?
Like I mentioned, we're extremely customer focused, but we have in-house installations teams, we have in-house field teams. But like when I say we're customer centric, I'd say the most customer centric company that I've ever been at, which is saying a lot given I worked at places like Amazon, who's known in the industry for being customer centric. But it's being led by a founder led CEO. It flows through the whole company. We just treat our customer problems, our customers' requests with incredible urgency, and we're out in the field all the time, right? And part of the thing as well is like you have to understand that all of these customers have different requirements. Like a customer in an oil and gas field is different than one driving in the city. And without getting in the field, you can't have a deep understanding of the problems they might suffer, right? Being out in the middle of Texas, you might not have connectivity. So we have to design products that are able to still present AI insights or AI alerts out there, and then notify the fleet managers later, right? So just to give you an example of the things we've solved over time here.
Yeah, and it makes a ton of sense. And again, it goes back to all these architectural decisions you made along the way, like the edge computing, which helps you in that case where there's no connectivity to the cloud. Yeah, it really resonates with me as somebody who has, served, groups like law enforcement in the past, where it is such a physical job, and you're, in that world integrating to a body-worn camera. And so the power of what you all are doing, really meeting people in this physical space, it sounds really incredible. So maybe last kind of closing question I've got for you is, tell me, given your transition, what's one thing that you think a SaaS product leader may consistently misunderstand about building AI products for the physical world?
I'd say maybe two main things, but I think one common misconception is that AI for the physical world basically has the same constraints as the digital world. And like we touched on it, but it doesn't. It's a different ballgame completely, because we think of our product as a safety system. And when you're using it to run critical operations inside a company, you can't tolerate hallucinations and things of that nature. So you have to be really good at this, right, to be effective. And that's what our customer sees. The bar is just so much higher. I'd say the other common misconception is that AI is AI, right? Like an AI dash cam is another AI dash cam. But given the long tail, that's just certainly not true, right? So we welcome all of our customers. We actually want our customers to trial against our competitors, because we know how hard this is from an AI perspective, from a hardware perspective. And you have to really be in the details to deliver a superior product. So what I tell other SaaS leaders overall is that for the physical world, you have to be in the details. You have to control the vertical stack. You can't abstract hardware. You can't abstract AI. You have to build it all in-house to really deliver the customer experience that you would want in an industry like this.
Yeah, the vertical solution really makes sure that you can deliver the best-in-class solution from end to end. Makes a ton of sense. Well, Amish, thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's really impressive what you all have been building at Motive and the impact that you're able to have, in all of the geographies that you're touching. So great to see you all growing, and then, the reach that you've got across the globe.
Thank you, Denise. Really appreciate the time to speak about Motive and all we're doing here.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.